is Shane. Shane Strudwick is part of NEOtech Coatings Australia. So we're going from broad with Ian, like looking at the design of urban, to then the house. How can it be better design, better orientation, better ventilation? We're now going more into a product that actually, or products that could actually help in making either your roof more insulated and reduce that transition of temperature, whichever way it is, cold or hot. So I'll leave it with you. Thanks, Shane. Appreciate it.
Hello, everyone. I guess my conversation to you guys today is actually just about heat. We're going to focus on summer. So there's been a lot of conversation around the winter solar gain, but the summer solar gain is becoming more and more of a conversation, I guess, as the environment changes as well. So I have over 20 years when it comes to dealing with thermal insulation coatings, primarily in the industrial side of things. So we understand what it's like working in oil refineries and globally. And so part of this conversation is about some of the technology we do, but also dealing with some of the myths as well. So I'm going to fly through this. So we have a background with our technology. We have worked with NASA. It's not a spin-off kind of product, coating. So yeah, we can validate exactly how it is. And so we understand the ceramics that went into NASA, into the space shuttle, sorry, when it was on re-entry. But the reality is that dealing at 10 minutes at 1200 C is not like dealing with 12 hours at 40 C. Very different when it comes to solar gain and how you manage the heat. So here's the basics. Black's hot, white's cooler, but there's a little bit more to it than that. All right, so we'll keep going. Thanks. There'll be a lot of slides. So we're just going to sort of go through why cool roofs are important and why they're going to become more important in the future. And it doesn't mean roofs that have to be white to be cool. We're just going to focus on optimising the colour, and we'll go through there. Okay, so here's an example. Recently we did just a pump shed applying our coating on top of it. So it's just a 30-degree day, green shed, as you can see here. As we're applying the coating, the temperature's just dropping straight away. Now you could apply water to that and they could do the same thing. Obviously the water will disappear and then it'll get hot again. The roof temperature on the 30-degree day was 47 degrees. And so literally within a minute and a half, the temperature has dropped down to 27 degrees. It was below ambient. And that'll last for 20 years. So, excuse me. So yeah, that's a way a product can make a difference at 0.25 of a millimetre thick. All right, so it's a bit more than white. There's a lot more that goes into it. So cool surfaces are a bit of a blind spot. So this is an article that's just popped up from the Washington Post talking about understanding infrared heat. Now, it's becoming a much more global conversation dealing with heat through the roof and surfaces. And it goes to say the amount of the volume of articles out there are quite impressive. So what we'll cover, so this roof space here, I just want you to have a think about the roof coming in as a straight galv roof. Would you think the external temperature is 23, 33 or 43 degrees, even though we'll come up with the answer later, even though the reading is 55 degrees coming straight off that roof. So just have a think about it.
43.
We'll get the answer later. Okay, so technology is moving on. That's the reality to it. And coating technology is moving on at the same time, whether it's in a house or whether it's an industrial plant or whatever is going on. Thermal coatings are evolving and they're evolving quickly. Chris? Yeah. So we can see that technology is moving and we have to understand and accept that traditional, Chris, yeah. Traditional insulation was developed in the 30s. It's important. However, it needs assistance now. That's the reality, because as a product by itself, it's designed to absorb and allow heat through. That's ultimately what it does. It holds it as long as it can, and then it lets it through. So we know heat goes to cold. It's a fundamental. In winter, you're losing your heat, and in summer, you're gaining your heat. So the question is, how do you reduce that heat flow and heat transfer? So here's the basics of heat, and it's important we have this conversation as much as it looks like it's year 8 high school stuff. Radiation, conduction, and convection. That's the 3 principles of heat. Chris, flick it. If we flip that on its head and we think about the sun's coming down, it's hitting your roof, whether it's a concrete tile roof, a metal roof, or whatever it is, it's creating internal heat, it's getting hot, the heat's transferring. And if you've got humidity in there as well, it just creates even more pain. So out of all these three, the infrared, the UV and the visual, What do you think has the highest amount of heat transfer in it? Anyone sure? Okay, Chris. Infrared.
Yeah.
And it's not really something that we talk about because we're so focused on sun awareness around UV. It's actually, UV is about burning, you feel the UV. The heat from infrared is so critical, so the infrared is creating a lot of the conductive heat transferring through. The visual heat is important, obviously, and that's where the colour spectrum kicks in. So here is the light spectrum. Oh, it's just not coming up on the TV. So you can see this is the UV band, this is the visual band, and this is the infrared band. All right, so if you think about the sun as hitting your roof or your wall or any kind of surface, if you understand what heat's penetrating through, it's going to make a difference to what you're actually allowing to come in and what you're blocking. So in the real world that they're talking about coatings, I'm a little bit anti this SRI, and I'm not sure if people understand what it is, or there's quite often in the paints, globally in the paint market, the cool roof market, they're talking about this thing called solar reflective index. It's how much heat is emitted out and how much reflectivity is. The downside with it, it actually doesn't tell you how much it's absorbing. So while we have this SRI index and it's marketed, we have the whitest of whites and we talk about all this, what is the actual amount of heat transfer? You can't tell you. And the entire cool roof market is actually being built on a model which is a relative measurement, not an absolute measurement. It'd be like having an R rating if you actually didn't understand how much heat was transferred through. It doesn't make any sense. Chris? And so this is how they measure it. They'll stand on top of a surface, they'll take an emittance reading, that's the amount of heat coming out of a surface, and then they'll take the reflectivity, and that's how you get your SRI. But anyone who's interested in actually understanding heat, what is the amount of heat transferring in? So they'll generally in coatings they'll use U values associated with that. So they'll take the mass of any product that it's on top of, how much transfer through. In the UK they'll use that obviously a lot more, how much heat is going out. And it's something that I just want you to be aware of. Don't get caught so much on the SRI if you understand it's actually not giving you an absolute. And here's some of the marketing that you'll see when it comes to cool roofs. They have the products work, but they'll talk about heat transfer coming in, it's reflecting off, the emissivity is going out, which is the amount of heat that's going up and out of the surface. And then they'll give you these vague, loose numbers when it comes to how much heat's actually going in. So it doesn't really tell you anything. So this is where it's a bit Wild West out there in the cool roof markets and at the moment. So when it comes to colour, emissivity on black, this is what emissivity is measured against, is how much heat is transferring out of a surface. Okay, black will give you, and it's measured against black, that is the only thing, a black body. And then as you work your way through, you can have a lower or high emissivity product, but you can also have a lower emissivity products that are a lighter colour. So there's a bit of complexity when it comes into there. So white, for example, doesn't reflect 100% of heat. It can't reflect it because it's the visual spectrum, which is 44%, and it's only doing it while it's clean. So when it comes to understanding how heat's working and how much is coming in and how much is being released, this is the speed, you've got to understand how much is going in as well. Thank you. Surfaces are important. Obviously, if you have a pitched roof over a flat surface roof, so if you have a flat surface roof and it's a dark colour, maximum absorption, particularly how much solar heat is being gained, it's just going to, you're absolutely going to get pummeled. So having some technology that's going to stop it makes a difference. So we see a lot of houses being built that are low pitch roofs, even in Galv, which we'll talk about, they're actually absorbing so much heat as chronic. So yeah, has anyone seen this development at Norwood? Yeah? Oh my God, I would never want to live in that place in summer. I couldn't imagine how these little air cons are going to cope. Thanks. So as an example, we always use car. A car is a logical thing to do, and colour. So on a basic 35-degree day, a dark colour roof on that external temperature is 64 C. A white is 50 C. If a white reflected all the heat, that would be 35 C. It wouldn't be. So what's the difference? It's the infrared. The heat's going through the white pigment into the density in the metal, holding into the metal, and then emitting back out. So that's the basics of it. And then on top of that, if you actually were blocking it, you could actually get near ambient. That should be, as a passive solution when it comes to understanding absorbing materials, that's where it's at. All right, we'll jump into some quick myths, okay? All right. So the first one is that shiny roofs are better. Why not natural silver like Zincalume? It's more reflective than white. Okay, so an infrared, this is an infrared drone that we've got. So this is a Zincalume roof, and it looks a lot cooler. In fact, it looks beautiful. The reality is the combination of aluminium, zinc, magnesium alloys along with silicon gives the impression that it's actually reflecting a lot more heat. Okay? However, the reality is it's actually hotter. So it's actually holding the heat. It's got one of the worst emissivity ratings you can imagine. So this is me standing on our product on a 33-degree day, and here's the zinc underneath it. Okay? So while it looks like it's actually reflecting a lot of heat, it's not. So here's a standard emissivity chart offline. You can see new Galv emissivity 0.23. The higher the better when it comes to releasing heat in emissivity. So a new material, 0.23, is holding a lot of heat. Okay? All right, so this is a shot we did at Clinton over at York Peninsula, 38-degree day, again standing on where our product is, and then here's some old Galv all around it. It's 56 degrees and 39 degrees. So there wouldn't be too many people who'd be confident to stand on a bare metal roof on a 38-degree day unless they knew there was some level of protection. So what the coating is doing is not holding and allowing the heat in, it's just reflecting it and blocking it as quick as it's coming in. All right, so here's the difference between a new house that's got a brand new Zincalume roof on it. It looks great, it looks cool, it's no problem, we know it's not. And this is what happens when it deteriorates in age. Look at the heat that's penetrating into it from that point. Okay, so time will make a difference. Now, people believe, oh, there's oils on a new Zincalume roof, that's going to make a difference. No, the oils are there to protect it during transportation. However, over time, everything will degrade. UV comes back to that UV and aging. So we did a roof up in the Flinders, and after we applied it, it was a straight Galv roof. After we applied it, then you can see the internal temperature in the roof space was tracking with nearly with the external temperature of the roof inside in relation to swing. Now the variations that can happen are wind are a big thing. That can actually influence surface temperature as well, makes a major difference. But by just a definition, and we talk about the comfort range, Jim, you mentioned that before, there's a comfort range for humans, so 24 to 28. And there are formulas that you can work on when it comes to understanding a benefit that ASHRAE have actually put out on temperature variations. With 2, okay, NatHERS says all you need, roof cavities aren't important. So these are all offline comments that are just believed in the world that are put out there. All right. So according to NatHERS, this is the standard image that they've had for a very long time, and it talks about heat gain, heat loss. So when it comes to summer, they know that 25 to 35% heat comes through the ceiling. There are many people out there who believe the envelope is the ceiling. It's not. The envelope starts at the roof and the walls. It's all external. You can have an internal envelope, but there's an external envelope. And then obviously windows and walls. So these are all solar gain and then solar loss over here. There's no national roof strategy though when it comes to core roofs. So if you just take Colorbond for example, their lightest colour, most efficient solar absorption, they got the SRI, we know that doesn't mean much, but their solar absorption ratings are really quite interesting. So their lightest colour means 28% solar absorption. That's ultimately what 0.28 sounds nice. We all know that people are really getting into night sky now for their roofs. In Australia, it makes no sense. Nearly 100% absorption into those materials. And that's their own numbers, so that's a lot. So the best that they can offer you is at least 28% solar absorption, which is still good. However, when we look at the building standards, when it comes to insulation recommendations across all the building code, except obviously in the snowy season, they talk about very light coloured roofs, solar absorption of 40%, 0.4. But the R value that goes across there for a light coloured roof, 4.1, is consistent across pretty much every building code, unlike dark roof where they recommend more. Why would they recommend more insulation if there's a dark roof? Because a dark roof absorbs more heat. That's just a fact. So, getting back to our original roof, was it 23, 33 or 43? Far away. It's It's 23 degrees. So inside that roof space was 50 degrees, which is crazy. You've got ducting, so the insulation's doing as best as it can, and it does do an excellent job. There's no problems. Pretty good. However, the solar absorption in summer across any material is really high. We've got tile roofs, 61 degrees, just straight galv roofs, everything else like that. We did just a one sample tile on a grey roof down at Carrick-Kalinga on a 22-degree day, I think it was, and it was 60 degrees. Now the concrete is holding that heat and transferring it through. It's physically burning my hand underneath it. And then you look at that, walls do the same. And one of the really interesting things that I find is all steel frame, all steel roofs, all steel houses, all steel everything. Perfect thermal bridging situation when you get it, like heat's hitting that roof, going through. So we've done readings on walls, and you can see how much heat is being absorbed and held in the steel frame as well. Steel's great, there's not a problem, but it's just, I'm just having a conversation about heat. There's things we can't see the heat. Okay, we can only see. And then a lot of houses have their ducting sitting in there. And this material here is your R1 ducting system coping with 50-degree heat. Heat's going straight into it, and then it's having to work really hard as the air conditioning system in order to try and get you cool in your house. And look at this, it's like literally probably 30 centimetres away from a 50-degree surface, and it's trying to keep it out. And then they'll run across 13, 14 metres across right down through a house or something like that, so there's nothing left at the end. It just doesn't make sense, and it's not sustainable. But so many houses are built like that. And then you've got poor insulation. There's tons of that, it's everywhere. And then you've got obviously a lot of spaces where air gets in and things like that. Go for it. And humidity is a killer. So we can go and put blankets in, but they've got their R values, but then when you put them on, you crush them. So they become their own little thermal bridge in some way. And then you've got condensation issues when you put sarking, anti-con blankets, so it's hiding the condensation. So there's just all these things that's going on a roof we can't see, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. So yeah, this actually had some sarking inside it, concrete 39 degrees, and it's well over 50 degrees, a good amount of insulation, but the roof space is important. All right, cool roofs in cool climates are inefficient, so don't have a cool roof in a cool climate, okay, far away. So there's been a ton of studies about this globally. Essentially, I'm just going to summarise them. They're insignificant compared to summertime. The benefits that you're going to get from a cool roof in summer are going to completely outweigh the losses you're going to have in winter. Again, look at our climate zones. Flip the states, turn it upside down. It says cool roofs are still good in cold climates. It makes no difference. Go for it, Chris. The SA government did a study, insignificant penalties when it comes to having a cool roof. Chris? And globally, when it comes to studies that have been made on some pretty significant organisations, it's the same conversation, okay? So yeah, no point talking much about that one. Does roof cover really make a difference? Far away. Well, if I take this image over here, which is the Western Sydney University, which seems to really understand cool surfaces at the moment, they're probably the hottest onto it, so to speak, pardon the pun. Their own thermal imaging talk about the heat of a black tile, and it goes all the way down. So you can just see colour does make a difference. It definitely makes a difference when it comes to heat. Cricketers wear white because it's cooler standing in the summer. Aeroplanes use white because they're not absorbing as much heat, therefore they don't have as many thermal issues to deal with as well. And then we were no Santorini. Okay, I'm not saying paint everything white, I'm just saying just be mindful of that colour can make a difference. That's right. And then we've got these housing estates popping up left, right and centre. Two-storey, dark, no trees, no green area, nothing at all. It's literally maximising development. So yeah, if you just pop that and at least change the colour, first of all, regardless of the technology, it's going to make a difference to the urban heat island peak. So here's a recent aerial view of Parramatta and Darwin. And why would Darwin have all white roofs? Because it gets hot. Parramatta's facing similar heat issues, and they're panicking about it, and all got black tiles, metal, dark roofs. Hardly any trees, hardly any green space. it's something, and they just recently overturned in New South Wales last year a dark roof ban. It doesn't make sense. Go for it. But if we look in, just take Adelaide, so this is Campbelltown, so not far just across here. We've got a nice blend, okay, but there's a lot of green space, and then here's Moana down south. New development just looks like the one at Parramatta pretty much, and some of the guys have talked about that as well. And yeah, you know, there's 17 homes so far in the development, and 92 have got cool roofs. And there's no other space. I mean, look at it, it's going to be hot out there. When it comes to understanding colour, this is talking about how much air conditioning use is going to be going up in the future because of a warming planet. Next one. Anything over 48 degrees, your air conditioner will no longer function properly. You just can't. It's a mechanical device. It starts to fail. Why not have a passive solution? And also, the coefficient heat gain that's going up will cost you twice as much to run in the future. Go through it. And as we know, things are going up in price. So does it really matter? Well, in Argentina, they're implementing cool roof strategies. London, they're implementing cool roof strategies. Globally, Australia is just the one that's sort of a little bit behind, not even thinking about it. Go for it. Okay, myth number 5, just add more insulation. Well, we sort of saw in that chart, the tiny little gain going from R5 to R6, I think. Well, here's one reason why you've got to be careful about that, because if there's water in it, there's a whole ceiling that can collapse. So they've added more insulation, but they didn't assess doing it properly. Go for it. And then here's an interesting relationship between R values and heat loss. So you can see that the gain of having more insulation just starts to drop and diminish, which is probably why when we had that chart before, when it went to R5 to R6, it was just a tiny little gain. And that makes sense when it comes to understanding the temperature variation and the R value at the same time. So is it the answer? It's definitely going to help, but it just goes along there. Go for it. And then there's landfill, because you know, cool roof, you don't have to worry about landfill when you've got a tiny little bit of paint. You're not having to worry about a whole lot of things actually when it comes to environmental damage at all. Go for it. The reverse of that is actually at night. So it does a fantastic job in summer of keeping the heat out, although while it's holding, it's resisting. Your house is hot at night because it's holding and resisting, so the heat can't actually escape at the same time. So if you're reducing how much heat is going into the roof or into the walls and things like that, then you also got to have less heat in the house and in the materials to escape at the same time. Okay, so yeah, bulk insulation slows heat, that's what's R. R equals resistance, Y heat reflects that, and we know that we can pretty much block it. Go for it. So it's getting hotter. Don't need to say much more about that. It's just the heat waves at left, right and centre. Northern hemisphere just going crazy. They're naming heat waves now. This is the first. Spain's just named its first heat wave, which is going through at the moment. It's becoming a global issue. And we all know we've got our own power hikes and things like that. So if we're running inefficient air conditioning systems in inefficient homes and we're doing all this sort of stuff, it's just going to start costing us. And then we get into the cycle globally of more air conditioners coming on. It's just going to go up and up. Okay. So I wanted to make a quick conversation around solar and dark roofs and cool roofs. The reality is, as you create a cool roof with a cooler microenvironment, you get the micro switches work more efficiently. It's just a fact. If you have, while dark roofs look sexy, don't get me wrong, like they look, you know, dark colours are great. However, you will get, and there's studies that have been done on this, you have probably about a 10% gain in solar efficiency by running a cool roof over a dark roof, because it's cooler. So micro switches, electronics work better. So I don't think, you know, cool roofs look unattractive at all, but that's just my position. We're just finishing a trial with the UniSA and City of Adelaide on a cool roof out at Parklands. This interesting 2 images on the right here. The top one, it's 54 degrees. It's like a blue coloured roof. And look how cool the shrubbery is and vegetation is. And the next photo down, after we've applied it on a 26 to 27 degree day, the roof is cooler than the trees. Now it's pretty unusual. There's so much heat releasing, it's not being held on the roof. It makes a difference. And the results are about to be released from that from the university themselves. I'm not going to go through them. There's lots of them. So we have worked with NASA for over 30 years, so we understand thermal transfer, we understand ceramics associated with it. And so yeah, it makes a difference, and that's why we can worked up basically to fire coatings, so we can deal with 1200 C for 4 hours, so we understand it. Yeah?
Does the cool roof, is that you wire a normal colour-on roof and then you put whatever?
You could do anything with it, you can retrofit.
So the product as a product?
No, generally it's retrofitted, so yeah. But you can buy a colour-on sheet like the white Dove, I was thinking was something like 28%, I think. So you can buy their products, at least you'll have a cooler roof. But if you want to go the extra mile, you can retrofit, you can apply. Normally people come along and they'll just paint it on.
One other question, is there an optimum between having the bats and colour the cool room?
There's never been a study done on that.
It's not either or?
No, there's never been a study done there. We know that it makes a difference. Like the house we did at the Flinders, they went from 9 hours air conditioning to 1 hour air conditioning a day. Now, we didn't change the bats. We just reduced how much heat was going through the roof space. Therefore, it was not transferring through the bats into the house. And they had at the back of the house, they had a lean-to. It was the first time in summer they could ever use a lean-to just by stopping the heat. Because a flat lean-to absorbs heat, transfers through, unlivable. So yeah, we can only give you anecdotal. I would love for the government to go, oh, let's put $500,000 into a study and actually understand this, but they haven't done anything like that yet. Just quickly flick through. So yeah, here's some of our development evidence, keep going. So here's our product, the way it works. We focus on 4 ceramics that block the variations of heat, plus reduce heat emissivity. Go for it. And here's the graph of how we block the infrared. We don't have the white as white because we don't want to blind people, neighbours, which is a big thing. It's like, oh my God, council chose our product because it wasn't the whitest white, but it had the best efficiency when it comes to blocking heat. So there's a difference. You can have a more subtle colour, but it doesn't have to be super white and blind you. And then there are benefits, transportation, reduced fuel. We've just done an experiment, $54 million in fuel savings by not having to use as much diesel. You know? Rail cars, passive solutions. Go for it. Just keep flicking through. This is a rail solution as well, like railway lines, because they buckle. So there are ways that this technology are going to make a difference to surfaces globally. It won't matter. You know, just flip through these quickly. So you're reducing heat on so many surfaces. It just doesn't matter about roofs anymore. We took a water tank up in Roma from 48 degrees to 24 degrees just by stopping heat penetration. The first time the miners could actually have a cold shower. So yeah, so this has been used for well over 30 years, and there are reductions, and there's kilowatt savings, and there are benefits in summer by reducing heat gain. Again, Australia's Department of Energy in the States have done their own testing against our product in 3 locations, and again, they would output actual savings. Let's keep going. And certified, so cradle to cradle, cool roof certified, and everything else like that. Different companies and organisations around the world have validated this stuff. It's no issue. So we have a specialty in fire, reducing energy, and corrosion is one of our other specialties as well. All right. So yeah, here's basically the future where it's going to be. It's a passive solution that reduces CO2, reduces energy costs, keeps you safe and keeps you cool. And basically, in the end, you know, cool surfaces do make sustainable sense passively. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.